Hello, TikTok. Fagger Freestyle here with another story time about the time I met a vampire. I tried to do this story the other day on live and it just did not work out. But anyway, I just decided to record a video. People have been asking me about the story, so here it goes. I'm a rideshare driver in New Orleans. So, of course, I encounter all types of people from all walks of life. This one particular ride was very interesting. Now, this was a couple of years ago when this occurred. And I'm going to tell you, for the most part, I remember what she said. I do not remember what she looked like. And there are some details that when the experience was over, like I had completely forgotten some things. But anyway, so I'm riding, pick up this passenger, and I remember our conversation. And the craziest thing is I can remember her voice. I can, and even as I'm telling you this, I can hear her voice in my head. And I can even picture like this part of her face around her mouth, her lips. I can see them moving as she's talking to me. And I remember her hand being on my shoulder, and I remember what it felt like when she touched me. But a lot of other stuff, it's like was just completely erased. So I pick her up, and I do know that we were having conversation. I talked to many of my passengers, and she is telling me I have really great energy. So I told her thank you. She asked me some things about myself, nothing too private, nothing with too many details. So, I just kind of gave her some general info. And I remember her telling me that she wasn't from here. That I do remember. And then she proceeds to tell me how much she loved New Orleans, how much she loved being there, living there, et cetera, et cetera. I do recall asking her where she was from originally, and all she told me was that she was from very far away. And it's funny again because I'm hearing her voice in my head as this is weird. Um and I've never shared this story with anybody, so TikTok, you're getting it first. um she touched my shoulder at one point, and this is where things got really strange. She touched my shoulder, and I felt like I just froze. And even as I'm talking to you right now, I can distinctly remember that feeling of feeling frozen. And my hands were on the wheel because I could see my hands on the wheel. The car wasn't moving. And being frozen in that moment, I hear her voice, but not like I'm here talking to you. In my head, I hear her voice telling me, don't be scared, that she's not going to harm me. And then after that, we're moving again. And I remember kind of turning and looking like that. And she was sitting back in the seat and her hands were on her lap. And I said, what did you do to me? And she just smiled. And she says, I just leached some of your energy. And I said, what? She said, I just leached some of your energy. She said, this is going to sound crazy, but I can assure you it's true. I'm a vampire. She said, but I'm not the type of vampire that you've been taught about in books and movies. She said, those types of vampires exist, but they're very rare these days. I'm a vampire that feeds off of energy. And all I have to do is touch you to get it. She said, New Orleans is a great place for her and her kind to exist. And that there are quite a few members of their tribe, is what she called them. I think I remember this part of our conversation so significantly because I believe when she touched me, she implanted something in my mind, whether you want to call it a memory or a thought or an idea. But she gave me something of herself, probably, to where I can recall this portion of the interaction between us. Maybe she knew that eventually I would share the story with others and therefore maybe make it a little bit more acceptable for them to start, for her and her members to start presenting themselves. I don't know. I don't know why she even chose me for this. But she told me that there are vampires that survive off of good energy. There are vampires that survive off of bad energy. There are vampires that survive off of sexual energy. And there are vampires that survive off of blood. And New Orleans is the only place in the world where you can find members of all four of those vampire tribes. Maybe she wanted me to remember this portion of it as a warning. I don't know. But I know she wasn't lying just because of how I felt. And even now, it's crazy because I still feel like her hand is on my shoulder, which makes me wonder, when she touched me, did she create some type of psychic connection between the two of us? I don't know, but I think I need to end this. Anyway, I don't remember where I dropped her off at. I don't even remember dropping her off. The next thing I remember doing clearly was being in a part of town that I didn't remember how I even got there. And it was like 2 hours later. And I was just in a parking lot. Just in a parking lot. And I know it sounds weird, y'all. I think I probably shouldn't even recorded this. I probably shouldn't even be talking. I probably should not even be talking about this. I shouldn't.
Y'all seen that story about that Uber or Lyft driver that met the vampire in New Orleans? That story made me think about a story that happened to me that was similar, but it was in Atlanta. This happened a while ago. I was super young, and the details of the stories don't show y'all how long ago this was. This was in a time where it was just becoming cool to meet people online. Like, you would meet new people on MySpace and be like, oh, they live in the same area. Shoot, let's hang out, let's chill, whatever. This was also during the time where I was on this spiritual, like supernatural kind of awakening time. And everything on my page was talking about like spiritual, supernatural stuff and whatever. So naturally, I would have interesting conversations with people who were like into the same thing. This kid hit me up who was about the same age as me, I think maybe a little bit older, and was asking me, hey, did you read about this? Did you read about this? Have you heard about this? And all the stuff he was talking about, I was like, nah, I never heard of that. Wow, whoa, it's crazy. So we would always have these crazy conversations until we got to the point where he was like, you should come hang out. I got some stuff I could show you, like, that I've done and that I've seen. You should come chill. I'm like, what? Yeah. This is about to put into perspective how long ago this was. So to get to his house, I had to print out directions on MapQuest, which was, yeah. At the time I was living with my best friend who's like my brother, and I used his mom's car so I could go. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go hang out with a friend or whatever. She was like, cool, whatever. So I printed the directions out, drove to the house. I pull up to this house, and it is a mansion, like the biggest house I think I've ever seen. And as the gate is open and he's walking down the driveway, he's like, what's up? I'm like, what's up? What do your parents do? Just kind of like, oh, yeah, they're into everything. They're not in town right now, whatever. When I tell you it was like a circle driveway, it had like Bentleys and like all kind of expensive cars in the driveway. And I'm just kind of like nervous because this is the first time that I've ever been around money like that. We walk into the house through this huge ass garage, and the house has this weird feeling. It like feels homey, but feels expansive at the same time, like a warehouse. It was the weirdest feeling. I can't really put my finger on it, but it felt vast and at the same time cozy. This is where it starts getting. As we go through the house, each room is themed to like a different period of humanity. I'm talking like big suits of armor in one room, and then it's like Asian inspired stuff and ancient stuff. And I'm like, so do your parents collect things? Or at this point, I'm like, what's happening in here? We're walking through all these rooms, and we finally get to a hallway that looks just like any other house, any other hallway. His room was to the right. There was a restroom to the straight ahead, and then branches off to the left to other rooms and stuff. Normal. This is where it kind of linked to the other girl story, and what made me think about this again was I remember the details, but I don't remember the details. Like, I remember we talked about socials, birth certificates. He was telling me how to use my brother's birth certificate to get him out of jail. Other kind of secrets about the country, the world, all kind of stuff I remember, but don't remember. I remember what he looks like, but I can't quite remember what he looks like. I remember what he sounds like. I remember what the room looked like. I remember what the bathroom looked like. And let me tell y'all about what I found in that bathroom. So this is what made me start going on a rabbit hole and researching things, because it was this big book. It was a huge, I don't even think I've ever seen a book this big, but it was like leather bound. You could tell it was really old. When I opened the book, on the first page were like these drawings, and it was these beings, and it was kind of like a family tree type thing. And the first one was saying like, this is this being, and then this is this being's kids, and then this is whatever. These beings looked like us, but pitch black. And these were drawings in the beginning. So the beginning of the book was drawings. They were pitch black, like the color black. All you could see was eyes. I'm flipping through the pages, and I'm feeling like I'm invading privacy. I'm seeing something I'm not supposed to see. And as I'm flipping through the book, it's saying names of what these beings are, who they are, like description of who they are. It was like biographies, but very short descriptions. And I can't really remember details, but I do remember as the book got further, it became less of drawings and more of pictures. And once it started becoming pictures, I got scared. I grabbed the book and I take it out there, and I'm like, what is this? What is this? What? He goes, oh, that's the book of Anu, the Anunnaki. It shows you who all the Anunnaki are up to this day. Some of humanity comes from them. It's kind of like a story of God and the angels and blah, blah, blah. What? Mind you, we had a full-fledged conversation after that. I remember I was there for quite some time after that, and I remember him explaining it to me, going through the pages and talking, but I don't remember none of that. It's like I'm looking at a memory on mute. I came to an end. I remember getting back into my car, and like immediately after I left, I called my brother while I was on the way, and I was like, "You'll never believe this, blah blah blah," because we were both on this supernatural spiritual journey. I'm like, "He said this, he said this." Da, da, da. My brother's like, "I want to meet him. I want to meet him too." I'm like, "Yeah, I think yeah, you can meet him too." In like hours, I've been gone for I don't even know how long, and I'm telling him more and more stuff about the stuff I remember, and he's like, "I want to meet him. I want to meet him." I'm like, "Bet, I got these directions I printed from MapQuest. Let's go tomorrow." I'm sure he's not gonna carry his parents out of town right now. This is where it gets all the way crazy. So the next day, we followed the directions that were printed on MapQuest back to that same place. We get there, it's an open field. Nothing's there.
There's a lady on TikTok talking about her encounter with vampires, so I might as well talk about mine. This New Year's Eve, I was driving Lyft and I picked up an order, and it ended up being at like a place that used to be a church, but it wasn't a church anymore. Obviously, if you saw the festivities that was going on, there were like people with cloaks and like dark hair and heavy eyeliner, and there was like a red glow from the building coming out. Four guys got into my car. As soon as they got into the car, I felt a chill. And yes, it was winter, but it was a different kind of chill. I turned around and looked at them, and I immediately knew they were vampires. And it wasn't even just like a thought, it was more so a knowing. Before they got into the car, I was thinking like maybe they were devil worshippers because I had seen like a goat head and like the typical symbols that you see with associated with that. But I was like, no, these are vampires. There were two brunettes and two blondes. They all had blue eyes. Not that that mean anything, but their eyes were almost hypnotically blue. They were so clear, you could see through their, like, not their soul, but I can't even describe it. Their skin was white, but not white like crayon white, but it was very pale, but it was not a pale like, you know, some like white people are like, "Oh, I'm so pale." Even like red, people with red hair, how pale. It was still a different kind of pale because even regular people when they're pale, there's still some warmness to their skin. Like their skin looked cold. I don't know how to describe it, but it was more so the feeling of me knowing. Immediately, I start to panic. My heart is racing. I'm feeling like, is it too late to reject the call? Like, can I even ask them to leave the vehicle? And then I started thinking, okay, if I am panicking and my blood pressure is rising, then I'm like pushing more blood through my veins, which may mean that I may seem more appetizing to them. This is all stuff that's going through my mind. The man behind me, the blind who was like in the middle, touches my shoulder, and immediately it's like somebody poured warm honey over me. Like that is the calm just spreading down my body. It was like immediately I felt relaxed, almost like I was in a trance kind of there, but like watching myself. I can't even really describe it. And I knew at that moment that I wasn't necessarily in danger. So then the guy is like, well, our car is only a few blocks away, which I could tell from looking at the app. And he's like, but before we get there, we need you to answer a question. And you have to think very carefully about this. So now I'm like, okay, this answer is going to determine if I go home to my children or not. And it could just be my imagination and like me jumping the gun, and he could have been joking, but it didn't feel jokey. So he's like, okay, well, we have two separate cars. How would you group us together? Who should ride with who? What? So I'm like, I look back at them and they're smiling and they're kind of giggling. Now their teeth don't look like regular teeth, but they don't look like the typical vampire teeth either. But they definitely did not look like human teeth. Their canines were a little bit more pronounced, but not in a dramatic fake way. I can't even freaking describe it. And actually, if I had to describe them, to sketch them out right now, I couldn't even, because it's like they're a memory, but not like a typical memory, like a memory behind a memory. I can't describe it. But anyways, I knew it. I'm like, you're vampires. Yes. I heard the answer in my head. No, I'm looking at them through because I'm like, if they lunge for the jugular, I'm gonna crash us all. But I grouped the opposite hair colors together. And the guy said, well, why did you do that? I said, I don't know, it just felt right. He said, excellent choice. He took out his phone and he's like, I'm gonna start my car now. And I'm like, you could start your car from my car? And he's like, yeah, but we like you. You'll get home safe. Good. Like, you'll get home safe tonight. Have a good night. And I was like, yeah, I was kind of thinking that, doing Lyft on New Year's Eve could be dangerous because, like, who knows what kind. I was trying to make it seem like I didn't think they were the danger, but just let them know, like, in case they heard me panicking. Oh, fucking went and saw the vampire. But anyways, they got out and they gave me my biggest tip of the night. You would think that would have been my last ride for the night, but no, I kept going. I made it home, and I didn't tell any other person about this story because, like, are you supposed to share vampire stories? I don't know. However, I just did. So just know that there are other beings in this world besides us, and maybe they're not all so dangerous.
Alright, you guys, this is my part 2 to my New Orleans trip, and we're going to talk about the vampires that I saw. So fast forward a bit into my trip, both of my friends got there and we decided to go out and walk Bourbon Street and just see what the nightlife was like. We ended up at this bar that had live music, and it was a pretty big space. I don't remember what it was called, I wish I did. But when you walk in, there's like the bar on the side, and then this is what caught my eye at first. There was this table in the back right corner that a lot of people were sitting at, and they were sitting like on top of the table and on the actual like benches of the table. Their vibe was completely different than everyone else's in the room. It was just kind of, the only way that I can describe it, it was like a still darkness. It was just kind of off. But there were these two guys in particular that caught my attention. One was this tall black guy, right, that was sitting on one of the table, very tall, and this other guy who was like a shorter white guy, but they both looked very interesting. But I turned back towards the bar so that I can grab my drink and talk to my friend that was next to me. Tell me how, as soon as I turned around with my drink, he was standing there right in front of me, like some Twilight shit. He started talking to my friend, asking where we're from, what we were doing. Now, one of my friend's boyfriends, who actually lives in New Orleans, was with us, by the way. But anyway, this vampire dude and his tall friend convinced my friends, not me, that we needed to go to this bar. I think that's one of the oldest bars that's in New Orleans, and they have this unlisted shot that you have to ask the bartender for that's not on the menu. And as we started walking, we noticed that we're getting further and further away from, Touristville. And by this time, I really wish that I could explain it, but the vibes were just so weird. They were so weird. And I told my friends pretty much that it was a really creepy vibe. Like, why do we need to go all the way out somewhere else just for a shot, And on top of that, their energy was just not normal. And my friend's boyfriend agreed with me. And I specifically remember like typing out a text on my phone. And as we were walking, I showed it to my friend's boyfriend. And I straight up said, I think they're vampires. And he just looked at me like with the most serious look, like, I don't know why he didn't say anything out loud. Like, I guess maybe he didn't want to seem like the crazy one. But this is where shit started to get real. So there has to be a part 3 to this because there's no way I'm going to be able to fit it. So I'm going to post it right after this one. Part 3, my New Orleans trip, vampires, let's go. We got to this bar that they wanted us to go to so bad. He ordered those special shots for everyone. Myself and my friend's boyfriend just kind of looked at each other like, I'm not drinking this shit. I don't know what's in this. So like we barely sipped it and then just kind of like chucked the rest. And after that, the shorter guy, he started holding a conversation with one of my friends And this conversation was drawn out. Like, I'm talking about 25, 30 minutes. But the conversation was only about her. Like, her life, what she's doing. Every time she tried to ask him something about his life, he deflected it. Or it was something like 2 words, like very brief, back to you. Meanwhile, his tall friend didn't say anything to anyone the entire time. He was just sitting there off to the corner, like, just there, blank-faced. And I noticed as their conversation kept going, the more drained my friend started to get. And then I was like, A lot of times when people think about vampires, they think about blood-sucking vampires, like freaking Twilight or, you know, whatever other TV show or movie. Most of the time, and I'm not saying that it doesn't exist because I know that it does, but most of the time, these are energy vampires. And they literally suck the life out of you. And that's exactly what was happening to her. But they didn't want to hear me at that time. So after she started getting tired, all yawning and stuff, he tries to make his way over to me. And I had such a dominant energy when he came over to me because I'm like, you're not about to fuck with my energy. So I looked at him in the eyes the entire time. And every time he tried to ask me something, I reflected the question. I was like, what about you? And after about like 5 minutes, he knew that he wasn't gonna get anywhere with me. You can't play with me, I'm a witch. Fast forward, my friend started saying how she was tired. If we didn't do anything, she's just gonna go back and fall asleep. So when we left, they wanted to go to this 4-story like nightclub. But as we were walking there, I started telling them what I was feeling and what I knew, that they were freaking vampires. And then we decided to lose them when we got in there. Now, when I tell you guys, this place was packed like wall to wall, every floor. I think we went all the way up to the 3rd floor. I can 100% tell you that we lost them and that crowd of people because we were inside the building before they even got inside. So they wanted to go out on the balcony because they wanted to smoke or whatever. And I was sitting there telling them like, dude, like those guys were freaking vampires. That tiredness that you're feeling because they were draining your energy. Tell me how. 2 minutes later, I turn around and guess who's there? And this time it was almost with a smirk on his face. Like, oh, that's cute. You thought you lost me, didn't you? And somehow he knew what I was talking about before he even got there. He was like, so what were you saying to your friend? And proceeded to pick me up on the balcony. Okay, this is the final part to my vampire story. So when he put me on that balcony, y'all, I was shook. Like, and I look over to the corner where my friends were, and none of them were like looking over. I was like, how are you guys not seeing this right now? So what I did was I kind of pushed my leg down so that I would have had at least most of my body like close to the floor. Like that was the smoothest threat I had ever seen. But I did get down. I was definitely trying to play it off and keep things cool. But either way, shortly after that, we ended up leaving. And it's so crazy because even after all of that, he gave me his number. Like, I kid you not. And in my head, I was like, should I have a vampire friend? My sheer curiosity and just like, wow, like this is magical as fuck. But then I kind of got over it, you know, curiosity killed the cat. I don't need to be friends with a freaking vampire, and I deleted his number. But yes, you guys, so that happened.
Okay. I kind of feel like the more I show you, the more you guys won't believe me. But it's okay. I'm used to this now. Hey, mama. That's me. This is me in 1919, I believe. I was trying to be an actor. I've always been trying to make my way into film, even 100 years ago. I kind of switched over to screenwriting, as some of you might know, just because it's a hard industry to crack, you know. Back then, they didn't really allow too many black people in silent films, so you really had to be animated to kind of let them know what you're capable of. I look back at this picture now and I hate it, like I feel like I'm pandering to a certain demographic so that I can fulfill my dreams. Yeah, I hate it. But yeah, that's me. That's me. Let me explain something about fangs. This is the part of the video where everybody becomes a vampire expert, but those same people don't believe in vampires. Y'all humans are weird. Fangs are like your saliva. You don't salivate unless you smell food, you think about food, you about to eat some food. Fangs are the same way. Fangs are not meant to just pop out whenever. This ain't True Blood. Like, stop with the movie shit. Stop with the movie shit, y'all. Don't stop thinking about all of that shit. When you force fangs out, it hurts, right? Because your body is not naturally opening up for the fangs to drop out. It's like if you guys were taking a shit or trying to take a shit and it's just not coming and you force that shit out, right? What happens after that? You guys will get hemorrhoids. Same thing. It's because your body wasn't naturally trying to push that shit out. Y'all need to drink more water, by the way. Drink more water. Mind your business, drink some water. It's like lifting something that is too heavy for y'all to lift. What's going to happen? You guys will pull a muscle. You'll get a hernia. Same thing with fangs. Like right now, my gums hurt. And these are kind of pushing out a little too much. That my teeth aren't supposed to pop out like that. That's too far. That's too far. What's another thing y'all were talking about in the comments? Oh, sunlight. Vampires been here way longer than humans. Okay, I don't know which one of y'all started that rumor, but that's a rumor. It was a rumor made to make y'all feel safe. Sunlight. I'm in it right now. We gotta go to the store just like y'all. Like stores close at a certain time. I can't be waiting until nighttime to go shopping at the supermarket. You feel me? We just like y'all. We just a little stronger. Drink blood. I like these questions though. Keep them coming. I like these questions. Oh, I'm like, you hear me slurring? I can't even talk right. My gums hurt. But keep these questions coming, just so you know, I might not make it through this series. I've been getting the true death threats. True death is the death of a vampire. I don't know why they call it that, because we're not dead. I'm not dead. I'm not dead. And that's another thing. Why y'all? Don't let Dracula fool you. Don't let Dracula fool you. Anyway. Okay.
I'm seeing all these videos about vampires popping up on my TikTok For You page. And I never ever thought I would tell this story, at least in a public forum. But here goes. This is my vampire story. It still baffles my mind when I think that, say that, and I still get the creeps with the memory of any of this. And I'm going to be a little bit cryptic, if you get my drift, with regards to some of the experiences. But several decades ago, I had lost my job. I had just had my baby girl. So she's going to be 30 this year. So that's how long it's been. And I had gotten a job interview at a local business. Again, I'm not going to say what kind of business. And I went to this interview and I immediately felt something odd with the owner of this business. there was something so mesmerizing about him. He wasn't good looking, but he was good looking. It's hard to explain. Like, there was just something strange about him, and he just felt almost hypnotic. And he said, I'm interviewing for a couple more people, and I'll give you a call in a couple days and let you know if you get the job. Okay. I did get the job. A couple days later, he gave me a phone call and he said, I am offering you this job at this pay. And it wasn't bad. The hours weren't bad. The pay wasn't bad. And I said, let me think about it. I had another offer on the table. And he said, please let me know by tomorrow. And I'm like, understood. So I had called my mom, and my mom was very intuitive, even though she didn't really want to admit that she was. And I told her, and I'm like, I got this job offer, and I didn't even tell her a lot of like the creepiness that this guy kind of gave me. And she's like, Christy, I have a really bad feeling. Do not accept this job. Do not accept the job. I'm telling you right now, something's not right. Do not accept this job. Now, this is a business that was in the person's family for a long time. And so it wasn't anything out of, it wasn't like a starter company. This person was kind of known in the community. My mom didn't know him, but so it was a substantial, real job. And I'm like, Mom, I don't understand. I need a job. She's like, you're going to get a job offer from that other place that you interviewed for. Just stick it out. Tell this guy no and accept the other job once it comes. And I'm like, this job was actually, it was pretty good. But I took my mom's advice and I called the gentleman the next day and I said, I'm so sorry. I am really honored, but I'm declining the job offer. And thank you very much for your time. And he's like, I will double your pay. Excuse me, sir? I will double your pay. Now, it already was good pay, but double the pay was a lot of pay. And I'm like, again, something felt really off. And I'm like, sir, I'm so sorry. I'm going to decline. And he's like, I'm going to check with you in a couple days. And there was just something very ominous about the way that he said that. And that night, I ended up having a dream with him in it. And it was very vampire-ish, is the only way that I can describe it. And the business that he was in also spoke volumes for that. So a couple days later, he called me. And I said, again, sir, I've accepted another job. And I did not tell him with whom. And he's like, I will triple your salary. And I'm like, I'm sorry, sir. And he said, I can tell that you are very psychic. And I can tell that you know who I am and what I am. And I think it would behoove you to take this job. What? So I told him again, no, thank you. And he said, okay. Now this was like, internet wasn't really a thing. Like you couldn't really look people up. There was AOL chat and such like that, but you couldn't really look people up like you can now. And so I ended up accepting a job at a cabinet store and as an office manager. And I didn't hear from him, but I was still having these weird nightmares with him in it. And I'm like, it's just got to be in my head, right? But it was almost like he could read my mind. It was very strange. Well, guess who showed up at the kitchen store the second day that I started? Yeah, this guy. And it's like he knew that I was going to be there. He's like, hi, Christy. And I'm like, excuse me, what are you stalking me? Like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I'm ordering a new kitchen for the business. Like, it was nothing. And he continued to come in my dreams. About a year later, I ended up taking a job at a fireplace store as an office manager. A couple days into that, this gentleman walks in and says, I need a new fireplace for my business. Excuse me. Now, I'm not going to say everything about the business and everything about him, but you might be able to figure it out with a clue. And that is he lived above the business. That's all I'm going to say. So he's like, yep, I need a fireplace. And I'm like, sir, I don't understand why you're here. And he continued every time. He's like, would you like to work with me? I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm good. I worked at the fireplace store for a couple of years, and he would every once in a while call and he would ask for the fireplace to be serviced. And I ended up telling my boss at the time, like, how I felt about him. And he would laugh and he's like, I'm going to send you out there with the tech. And I'm like, no, you're not. But he was like, yeah, something's strange about this person. Something is almost like immortal. Even if you look at the family lineage, it's like he's existed before, and it wasn't like his great-great-grandfather. It was like him. So I ended up quitting a couple of years after that, and I worked for a school district. And guess who showed up at the admin office? Him. And in the meantime, he's still coming in my dreams. And every once in a while, he's still calling me and asking me if I want a job. And no. My mom had passed away. I'd gotten a divorce. I mean, we are eons into this. And I ended up running into him at a store, and he, like, do you remember everybody you interviewed like one time? Because he either has a really crazy memory, or it wasn't like a stalker. He just wasn't. That wasn't the case. It's just, again, it was very vampiristic. Is that a word? And so I ran into him, and he's like, hi, Christy. And again, he's like, how are you doing? And it was just very kind of Norman Bates creepy. I ended up in the job that I'm in now. I'm a professional psychic medium. I ended up having to go to a competitor of his to work on a case. And we ended up talking about this gentleman and his business. And I didn't say anything, but the owner of this establishment went, just Christy, make sure you stay away from, because he's a vampire. And I didn't laugh, and she didn't laugh. And she knew I knew, and I knew she knew too. So vampires do exist, and they don't necessarily wear capes. Sometimes they wear business suits, and sometimes they invade your dreams. And I feel as if there's a possibility that my life at that time was a little bit crazy, and it was because of the psychic sort of like vampire energy that he was sending to me, because he was mad that I did not accept a job with him. I would love to tell you more, but I don't want to open up that can of bats.
So here's the full video. If you saw the story, last night I saw something in the house that, as crazy as it sounds, to me looked like a vampire. I'm just going to show you the video. Here we go. Okay, trying again. Hearing sounds up here, like somebody's moving around. This stuff's been happening, but as soon as I pull my phone out, everything stops. I don't know. I don't know. I swear I heard somebody up here. Holy shit, I don't know what happened. That thing vanished, and my camera stopped recording immediately. At the same time, it's gone. Here's a slowed down version of what you saw, brightened and close up. I'm gonna post a still. I'm not sure how well you can see it. It turned like an old man to the door, lurched forward, and vanished. Honestly at a loss for what to do from here, but I'll keep you guys updated.